and Irene here with us to share their wisdom and their understanding of you with us. And as we open our hearts, we become more. And we are the Spirit of God, the light of the world, in the world. And we are so grateful. Thank you. Thank you. And so it is. Amen.
Unity on the River is a center of celebration, inspiration, oneness, peace, you name it, we're the expression of it, and it's all good. And now, what I would like to do is have you say together the mission and vision statement. Mission statement: we are a vibrant spiritual community that celebrates the presence in all and awakens humanity to its divinity. And the vision statement: centered in love, we joyously co-create a world of oneness, peace, and harmony. Good morning and welcome. I'm Reverend Carol Walrazak, Interfaith Minister and Lead Chaplain here at Unity. I'm going to be platforming for Reverend David and Irene Tompkinson, and we're just so glad that you're here. Thank you. And I will introduce them more fully a little bit later. As most of you know, we have live streaming here at Unity on the River, And unbelievably, or maybe it is believably, we're getting more and more people streaming from all over the country. So I thought if you want to say hello, just wave and say hi. And streamers, thank you so much for being with us. We'd also like to welcome anyone who is celebrating with us for the first time. If you would just raise your hand and keep your hands up, one of our ushers will bring a flower to you. I see somebody in the front row. And afterwards, there's a welcome table. Here's somebody else over here. Just keep them up. And we are just so blessed that you're with us today. And besides the flower, we do have a CD of a service and more information. And the welcome table, anybody who's there will answer your questions. Welcome. This year, we are on a journey to connect with our inner guide and enhance our personal relationship with the Christ within. We are also finding ourselves in transition and using life's changes for spiritual awakening. And perhaps the biggest transition, if you don't know this, is that we're in the process of hiring a new minister for Unity on the River. Now, I'm going to invite Tom Pellini up. He's going to give us celebrations and invitations.
I stand in the presence. Today, we're having the Youth and Family Ministry Pizza and Mini Golf in the Joy Room at 12:15. And today's flower dedication is from Susan Coburn. And it's dedicated by Susan with a grateful heart for being received into life on July 31st by her parents, Sue L. and William Colasano. Thank you, Susan, and happy birthday. And now we invite Seth Walrazak to make some announcements.
I stand in the presence. It's my pleasure to announce that Unity on the River has entered into a collaboration with Opportunity Works. Opportunity Works is a local nonprofit that sources job opportunities for developmentally disadvantaged adults. They are now cleaning the church and they're doing a great job. And this is an example of a win-win relationship between the church and someone from the local community that we really hope to foster here. There are more opportunities now that we are not expecting congregants to help vacuum. So we have opportunities in hospitality, some in the bookstore, always ushering. So please come see me after the service if you might be interested in hospitality. Thank you very much.
It's wonderful news. Thank you, Seth. So now it's the time in the service when we take a moment to greet each other in love, to say namaste. I behold the divine in you. You are beautiful. You're magnificent. If you are comfortable, you can give a hug or a handshake is fine. And I'll call you back in a few minutes. So namaste.
come back here after it seems like there's this big circle that's happening because Shipley's the one that brought us, like, really cemented unity for us, though we got started up in Portland, Maine, where she got started. So we were here in the beginning when this was just a fantasy and we were all meeting in the room next door. David and I brought one of the first crazy songs to unity. We're the ones that said it was okay to scream, yell, and holler, and clap your hands. Hi, streamers. Shipley was totally in favor of it. Don't misunderstand me. She loved it, okay? She absolutely loved it. She loved the whole feeling of celebration. And then, this is hard. And then we took one of our first favorite courses called The Quest with Joanne Westland. And say it for me? Westland. And today, right after this service, we're going to be singing at her memorial service. She was just a divine light for us. And then part of our journey after 10 years here took us to begin Unity Church in New Hampshire, Dover, New Hampshire. And this whole front section is filled with our folks. And David will be playing a song with this phenomenal choir and musicians and Maura that he wrote. So we are so full right now, we can hardly stand our little selves. So I know that Spirit is working through us. I'm so moved. If I can do this without crying, it's going to be tricky. But I took a love song and turned it into this. I changed the words. I'm sure that if the writer of this song ever hears it, he will be thrilled. Because it's about loving God. Yay, huh? Cool. So I know you're on my side, and if my throat completely closes, hum.
Whenever I'm weary from the battles that rage in my head, you make sense of the madness when my sanity hangs by a thread. I may get lost at times, but you always stay, now and forever. You will be my way. Sometimes I can't hear you, too caught up in me to see. I'm holding the answers that you have given to me. I'll see that all is holy, starting with today, now and forever. You will be my way. Now I can rest my worries and always be sure that I won't be alone anymore. If I only remember that you are here all the time. The ocean doesn't call for play now and forever. You will be my way now and forever. You will be my way. My way.
Irene Tompkinson. That was beautiful. Thank you very much. Well, I probably don't need to introduce them much more, but there's so much more to say. First of all, their topic today is Whose God Are You Using? Their work goes back over 35 years. They've been therapists, retreat leaders, ministers, and teachers, sharing their personal spiritual journey today, and of course, their music. And they hope to leave you with 5 spiritual suggestions for claiming the God of your understanding. David is a graduate of Colgate Rochester Divinity School, a former American Baptist minister, a Vietnam War resister, co-founder of Hospice of the North Shore of Massachusetts, former pastor of Unity of the Seacoast in Dover, New Hampshire, and now he and Irene serve as part of the ministerial leadership team at Unity in the City in Boston. And Irene, she holds a Master of Clinical Social Work degree from the University of New England. She and David co-founded Pathways to Personal Growth in Northampton, New Hampshire, a counseling and retreat center. Irene's undergraduate degree is in early childhood education. She often says that, I always knew I would work with children, I just didn't know they'd be in adult bodies. She is the author of a book called Not Like My Mother, Becoming a Sane Parent After Growing Up in a Crazy Family. And if you're interested in buying a book, you can contact her. I have her contact information. But also, it's a book that can be read online as well. Just download it for free. She's currently working on her second book, When I Say God, I Choke, which will be released on October 1st. Both David and Irene are excited to be coming back to Unity on the River after 10 years. Let's give them a warm Unity welcome.
Okay, stick that in my ear, huh?
It's the earring.
It's the earring? Take the earring off? Oh, it's always about the outfit. Do I have it, Brian?
We can hear you.
Okay, so take a deep breath, right? So, how did this book title, When I Say God, I Choke, come up, right? My first book, Not Like My Mother, came from always having this conversation in my head about, I'm not doing it like my mother. I'm not doing it like my mother. I'm not doing it like my mother. And so I spent a long time parenting my 2 daughters with not doing it like that. It was always an absolute reaction to that, all right? And What that did was that set me up to give my kids the parent that I wanted rather than the parent that they needed. All right? And I spent a long time working on that and making lots of amends, okay? And then, so fast forward a long time, David and I this summer will be married 43 years. And people say, don't put too much magic in that, folks. And people say to us, or they say to me all the time, how did you do it? How did you do it? And I always say, it's not about how. Nobody died and nobody left. That's it, all right? Why did you do it? Why did you stay together for 43 years? And there have been times in this 43 years when I have felt like, and David has too, this must be the most codependent act on the planet. What am I doing? I could have made all these other choices. There could have been guys with money.
There were guys with money.
So in the really, really hard times, because we have done everything to each other that other people have done, and it's broken up their relationships. We have not been saints. My daughter here will testify. Okay? My granddaughter now will testify. It's been hard work. Really, really hard work to stay together. So why have we done that? What's made us different, or what is it that's worked for us? And what I realize is, and it's only been recent, because I've been asking David to write a book about coupleship with me, and he absolutely hates writing, and so we had fights about that. You owe me to work on this book with me. Anyway, so in my journey of looking at it, what I realized is that the one thing that we have never, ever, ever argued about is spirituality. We've been on the same journey. He had just gotten out of divinity school when we met, and I was a fresh ex-Catholic. And streamers, listen, I truly, from the bottom of my heart, believe that the Catholic Church works very, very well for lots of people. And organized religion works very, very well for lots and lots of people. And thank you, God, that we have many, many paths. Many paths. I have a daughter who is so devoted to her church, and it does so much wonders for her. All right? But it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. I felt betrayed by the church, and I was not one of the church's sexual abuse survivors. But I felt betrayed by the church that I'd followed the rules and my life wasn't working out. So I got really, really angry at God, really angry. And it wasn't that I didn't believe in God, it was that I wasn't doing business with God. I was blessed to be brought to my knees with alcoholism. And wouldn't you know that if you get brought to your knees with alcoholism and you surrender to a 12-step program, they want to talk about God. Are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? I was so angry. That's where I got when you say God, I choke. Like, ugh. And what was coming up for me was, I'm not doing God that way. I'm not doing God that way. And I have heard over and over and over again people saying, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. And you ask them, well, what does that mean? I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. And they'll say, I don't believe in the God in the sky. I don't believe in the devil. I don't. It's what I don't believe. But you don't hear what it is you do believe. What are you owning? What belongs to you? In AA, the first biggest decision I ever made in my life was, there were 3 big spiritual decisions. The first one was to go into AA. And in that program, I learned that religion and spirituality were not the same thing. I learned that God was not my childhood religion, that God was something beyond that. There are many people who find God through that, but that's not God. My second big spiritual decision was the second year that I was in AA, and I'm sober 29 years. The second year was I went to a women's conference, and there were two women clergy who ran that weekend. One was a Catholic nun, and the other was Audrey from Portland, Maine, who was a Unity minister. And there it was like, oh, both of them side by side. How clever of you, God. So this blessed nun would say things, and I would go, and then, because I had a lot of work to do, and then the Unity minister, Audrey, would say things, and I'd be like, wow, that feels right. It just feels right. And she put me on the path to unity. David quickly came along on that path, and we've been on that path ever since, about 25 years. Then the third one is recent. The third one is we've become pretty serious students of the Course in Miracles. Now, Gerald Jampowski, one of the first teachers of the Course in Miracles, endorsed my book, so it's not like I haven't been around it. And his book, Love is Letting Go of Fear, was an introduction to the Course, but for me, every time I tried to read the Course, I thought, oh, I need the Course for Dummies because this is too hard. This is way too hard. But I always loved people who did interpretations like Marianne Williamson and Gerald Jampowski and whatever. So that's where we are today. We're studying that. And all of these paths have so worked together for us. What AA gave me in the 12 steps was to know that there was something more than me. It gave me freedom from alcohol. And that something more than me was for me to define. It's my job to find the God of my understanding. And so unity has really, really shown me that the God of my understanding is something that speaks here. It's not about the rules up here. It's not about the I know about God. It's the I know of God. I know of God. And it's been a lot of work, and it's been an exciting journey. It's taken David and I many, many places because he followed too, and he went into program, and he's going to talk about the God of his understanding. So if I leave you with anything today, I want to leave you with knowing that it's your job to find your God. Because that's where you find your meaning. That's where your life works for you. That's where you tap in to all the gifts that are yours to tap into. But it's really scary business because I also believe, and I mean this, or I'm trying to come from a whole place of honoring all paths, but I think a big, huge problem in the world today is religion is holding the definition of God hostage. And what's going on is, and then we're fighting about whose God is it? I mean, you look under every bullet that gets fired in the name of God, and it's an argument about whose God is it? And it belongs to all of us, whatever that is. It is, we've been given free will. I don't think there's any argument about that. And that will is what speaks to you. Because I believe and know and have experienced for me, and I only speak for me, except when I'm speaking for my husband.
All right, on my children. Okay. It has to be our truth. It has to be our truth. Breathe. You know where it is. You know, every time in your life you haven't listened. Hasn't that worked well? And as soon as I say to you, think of a time that didn't work, that you didn't listen, it comes right to mind, doesn't it? You know how you ignored the truth that was yours because it gets scary. It's hard. From day one, we have been taught this is what God is. This is what the truth is. This is it. This is the truth. This is God. So who are you? I can remember the first time at our little church up in Dover where we were doing a communion celebration and we were passing the bread. And the idea for David and I when we were doing this was to celebrate the fellowship and the community and the way we show up as God for each other. And when we told people, like, we're going to serve the bread to each other. We had it on a tray, and I'm going to serve it to you, and then you're going to turn around and serve it to the next people. I can't tell you how many people said, is this legal? And I can pretty much guarantee you that most of those were ex-Catholics. God love them. I'm one of them. You know, it's because we thought there were these rules. These rules about what God was supposed to be. And so if you listen to the founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, he did not start out to find a religion. He started out to enhance, and it's what he and his wife dedicated their lives to, was enhancing a meditation and prayer movement. He didn't care where you went. He just said, know that prayer and meditation are important. He also said, don't quote me because I'm going to change my mind. Because he knows this is a journey. This is an experience. So David's going to tell you a piece about one of his experiences.
Testing. Am I on? Okay, testing, good. I can't believe I'm married to this woman. It's amazing. And there were days many, many years ago after a night of arguing, I would wake up in the morning, I can't believe I'm married to this woman. My spiritual partner of 33 years. Gary Zukoff defines spiritual partnership as a relationship between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. And that's what we have discovered. We know that's the glue that kept us together all these years. So whose God are you using? I was thought about that, was thinking about that, and thinking about my own history, growing up in the Baptist church. And there were two major ideas that I remember growing up with as a Baptist. One was God is love, and the other was fear the Lord. There's a bit of a paradox there. Can you hear that? But I'm a young child and I'm growing up. You know, God is love. Okay, that every time people are nice to each other, we can kind of see that. But fear the Lord. Ooh, and I had a lot of fear. And sometimes, you know, if I made a mistake, it would. Do you swear to God you didn't take that candy from the store or whatever it was? So there was this fear that grew up side by side with the idea of love. And depending on the context, and I came from one of those families that Irene wrote about in her book, fear was kind of omnipresent. There was just not enough, for reasons I won't go into. Not enough of everything, love, connection, material things, money, you name it, and so forth. And my mother came through the Depression, and she was one who never quite got over the Depression. So I used to hear a lot of fear coming from her. So the fear part really resonated with me, because if you weren't good, then you weren't fearing the Lord enough. And it was just a strange kind of thing, and I think I kind of gave the finger to the whole thing by the time I got to be a college student, which is why I went to seminary, because I said, I've got to do something. I'm so messed up inside. I got to go. Maybe if I go to seminary, they can teach me how to be good. Because I didn't think I was good enough for God. I really didn't. As much as I tried, and as many talents and good things I had about me, there was this old default I would go back to, is that I'm not enough. And I think it came from that strain of fear from that God that I was taught about. So that's been quite an education. Turning that ship around has not been easy. It's been like turning the Queen Mary with a rowboat, actually. Because I've been to Unity, taking tons of courses. I have enough coursework to complete my licensed teacher. Thank you very much. And had a lot of awarenesses along the way and a lot of spiritual experiences. And Irene and I have done so many workshops and seminars and things along the way. And yet there came a night in Portsmouth Hospital. See, I'd been diagnosed 4 years ago with a heart condition. It's one of those meetings with the cardiologist, and he says, well, I think we need to operate, and the sooner the better. You don't like to hear that kind of thing. I had a valve problem. I didn't have heart disease classically, but a problem with 2 valves in my heart, which needed repair. And so here I was in the hospital 5 or 6 days after this major surgery. And I woke up around 2 in the morning, and I noticed that the moon was shining. It was one of those real silver moons that had been up long enough to shining brightly through the window, and my room was totally lit up. And I felt suddenly just filled with energy. This is, other than Irene, I think I haven't told this story because it's been one that I had a hard time knowing how to find words to tell it. I had this just feeling of aliveness, energized. I knew my life was at the beginning of a huge change because my motor wasn't going to work the same anymore. But I felt this joy somehow, and I said to myself, I need to talk to my heart. Maybe it was the influence of all the reading of Myrtle Fillmore, because she spent time talking to her body parts after she was struggling with her illness and made amends. And I did the same thing. I talked to my heart, and I told my heart that I'm sorry that I haven't treated you like I wish I had. There was a lot of stress, a lot of decisions I made were not right decisions. I put you under a lot of stress, so I can understand why you would have a little problem. And I told my heart that I loved it, I appreciated the millions of beats that it had made for me all my life, and I was saying all of this out loud, and I was feeling good about having this conversation with my heart. So then I came, I'm going to talk to Irene. So I talked to Irene, and I'm talking out loud, and basically I'm telling her how much I loved her. I also made amends. I was not the husband that I had hoped I would be. Mistakes I had made, things I had done that were hurtful. And I was feeling really good about this, and I was just feeling filled with love. It was an amazing experience, and I was hoping people weren't outside the door listening. It was 2 a.m., between 2 and 3 in the morning. And then I talked to each one of my children, each one. And I told them how much I loved them and told them that, again, I was sorry for mistakes I had made. There were times when my parenting really wasn't up to snuff, did things I wasn't proud of. And then after I talked to each one of my children, I talked to the little boy that was me. I'd done some inner child work before, so this little one was brought up and did the best he could with the beliefs that he was given, but also made a lot of mistakes, was very confused, didn't have a lot of confidence at times. So I assured him how much I loved him and that I knew that he did the best he could, and that all the things that happened to him that he couldn't control, it wasn't his fault. And I felt really good about having that conversation with that part of me. And then I said out loud, and now I want to talk to you, God. And like, whew, it wasn't a voice, but a thought came into my head immediately, which said, "Who do you think you've been talking to?" And I was overwhelmed. Oh my gosh. And I wept. And it was joy. It was a feeling that I had never had before. You know, people talk about hearing voices and it wasn't that, but it was definitely more than a thought, and it didn't feel like I was the source of it. It came to me. Who do you think you've been talking to? I didn't get the power of what happened to me that night until some time later. I just knew I couldn't tell anybody about it. I couldn't even tell my family. I didn't have the words to go with the feelings that happened. Since then, I've been able to put some language to it, like I am now. And like what usually happens when we have these very powerful spiritual moments, I know that many of you have had them, awarenesses, awakenings. Something seems clear as a bell to you. You know, and I realize, oh, this is what I've been studying and learning. This is unity. God is in everyone. God is in me, in Irene, in my kids, and by extension, everyone that I meet. I mean, I've had that head knowledge, but I was being given it in a different way. But then life goes on. You know, you chop wood, carry water, you forget these things, and you still go on with life the way you've always done. But bit by bit, there was this awareness in the back of my head that some things need to change about my thinking. Some things really need to change. And then it happened, let me see, 2 Decembers ago, the Newtown massacre happened on a Friday, and those kids were murdered. And I was going, Irene wasn't able to make it, down to Unity in the city to hear a speaker. Maureen Whitehouse was her name. And she was a good speaker. I loved Maureen. She had a great energy. But I remember thinking, what on earth is she going to do with this one? All these kids have just been killed. That morning, I heard a talk that I will never forget. It was filled with peace, with love, with unity, that we are all one. And the way she said it, the way it came across, I left her and I said, I need to talk to her, and I did. Turns out she's a teacher in A Course in Miracles. She was seeing life and this tragedy through a different lens. You know, and I had the thought, like when Harry met Sally, I want whatever she's had. I mean, I want to change my lens. I need to do a thorough examination of how my mind works. Because I'm tired of the CNN news or the Fox News or even the MSNBC news presentation of what life is. I really want to be tuned in to another wavelength. And I felt it. And I said, well, maybe I'll start the Course in Miracles again. So I started reading that, and I got so far in the lessons. And again, I kind of got muddled in that. And I knew I needed a teacher, because I heard one of the messages was, you cannot do this alone. We all need to have a mentor or a teacher. And I found one. And began studying again the Course in Miracles. Irene and I have been doing that together. We're on lesson 161 today, or is it 160? Anyway, it's teaching me the difference between knowing about God, like Irene mentioned, and knowing God. Because I am understanding is that experience that was visited to me in that hospital room doesn't have to be a once or twice or 3 times in a lifetime experience. It all depends on how your antennae are tuned and what you're aware of and what you're seeing. And I am slowly beginning to realize that there's a whole lot more going on in this world of CNN news that's behind all the facts and figures that were being presented. There's a whole lot more going on behind the masks and the costumes that we wear. There is a oneness of spirit that we are a part of that we cannot see with our physical eyes. What we see with our physical eyes is bodies, arms, legs, birth, death. But there's another vision in which this is all one. It is all happening now. It's a vision of life that goes beyond life. And that was what was happening in that hospital room to me. I saw it. I felt it so clearly. I got a taste. And I got a hunger. And I realized that's what I want. I don't want to be trapped in time. I want to know that there's beyond time and that we are part of something much greater than we can see. And that, for me, when I'm tuned into that frequency, is pure joy, isn't it? Pure joy. It's in every one of us. I love that song. It's in every one of us. Especially, Unity churches sing that quite often, but it's the break in there which says, it's in every one of us. I just remembered. It's like I've been sleeping 40 years. I'm not awake as I can be, but my seeing's better. I can see through the tears. And I'm realizing that I bought this ticket and I've been watching only half of the show. There's scenery in life and a cast of thousands who all know what I know. It's in every one of us.
So don't you be thinking that we're finished. Because we promised you 5 ways. It's going to be a couple minutes, guys. Sorry. So a couple of things. It's not going to be a lot longer. I'm just kidding. I worked so hard to figure out how to call these 5 things in my new book. Because I didn't want them to be the rules or the regulations. I didn't want them to be even the suggestions. I wanted them to be like a noticing. I just want whoever walks away from the book to have a noticing how to check in on, are you listening to you? Because you're the one that has to define the God of your understanding. So my good friend Everett gave me this word at one of our breakfasts together. And the word is Karn. And it looks like it should be Karen, but it's Karn. That's how it's pronounced. It's a Scottish word. And you know those rocks that people stack up on a hike? They're just letting you know you're on the right road. They're not telling you what to do. They're not filled with arrows. They're just telling you you're on the right road. So the 5 that I've come up with are Karns. Is the first one needs to be silence. You need to learn how to be with the silence. And man, AA and the 12 steps taught me that. Because everything I used as an artificial God was to stick something in my mouth, to smoke something, to run as fast as I could, to find the better party someplace else. It was always about moving away from me. Keep going as fast as I can, and I can tell when I'm there today. You know, it gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and usually overwhelm starts sweeping in. But the 11th step of the 12 steps is to find the stillness. To find the stillness. So there has to be a development of the stillness. For me, the first stillness I had was 1 minute that was recommended to me by a sponsor who said you need to sit still for 1 minute. And I was like, I got too much to do. She said, Irene, Jesus did it for 40 days. You can probably do it for 1 minute. It's like, all right. So I had the TV going. I had a book that was propped up. I was drinking a cup of tea, and I was knitting, and I was talking on the phone to her. So I said, okay, I'll do the minute. So I shut off the TV. And I'm knitting, and I even closed the book. So she calls me back, and she said, so how'd that work? Tell me what you did, because she knew me well, and I told her, and she said, I didn't tell you to make Christmas presents. I said to sit for a minute. I said, what do you mean? She said, stop and sit for a minute. I was appalled that she had no idea how important I was and how much I had to accomplish. So anyway, I stopped everything, because you come to this point where it's like you're willing to try anything for some peace. And so this is how my meditation looked. I had to sit on my hands. 5 seconds, and the brain going like crazy woman, and the body can't stay still. I mean, that was literally where I was at. Literally was where I was at. And I just have a strong feeling that some of you can identify. So that we're the species that can pause. You wouldn't know it to watch us, but we're the ones that have the ability to pause. So it is that stillness is the first kern. The second one is the tolerance for the unknown. Because when we sit still, we have to put the agenda down. The to-do list. The I've got a plan. The here's how I think it should go, God. And that's usually what my prayers were looking like. List to Santa Claus. And it was just to be with the stillness. I mean, what might come up? We might find out how awful we really are if we sit still with ourselves. Or we might find out how fabulous we are. But it was always that fear that was just running the show. Keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. This isn't productive enough. So the tolerance for the unknown. And the third karn is to be in the trust of self. To begin to trust the self. To begin to trust what you know. Not the shoulds, but the I know. The shoulds is a lot of toxic garbage. The I know is just in there, and it's just yours. It's not anyone else's. It's just yours for your path. The fourth one is about starting to inventory what your beliefs are. What do you believe? We know what the not list is. And sometimes we have to flush those out first before we can get to the what is for us. And as we flush those out, and we say to ourselves, okay, that's a belief. Where did I get it? And do I still buy it? We just need to inventory it. I can't tell you how many people I've had in counseling who I'll say, like they'll talk about maybe that, especially when they have kids, it's like I need to take my kids to church, so I think I'm going to take them to the blah, blah, blah church. That's where I was raised. And it's like, oh, how do their beliefs fall in line with you? And they look at me like, what? It's where my mother and father went. It's the one closest to the house. It's the one, which is fine if you go there, but just know that you have no clue what they're going to be telling you. And pay attention, does it work for me? Does it feel like a fit? What are your beliefs? Who gave them to you, and do you still want them? Where'd you pick them up? And the last one is, and these are a circle because we're constantly having to revisit and revisit and revisit. And the last one is to do something on a daily basis that enlivens you, that turns your juices on, because that's where you feel the expression of God in you. What turns your juice on? Maybe it's, dancing in the living room by yourself. Maybe it's whatever it is. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's saying something to someone that matters to you. Maybe it's taking the long way home from work because you want to look at something or smell the ocean or just anything. You're the one that has to decide what enlivens you. But you know what enliven means. You know what that means. I believe from the bottom of my heart, if you put these 5 together and you do it on a regular basis, you're going to know the God of your understanding. You're going to know. So I give you your homework, and your homework is to move forward and find the God that's right for you. It's time to stop using other people's gods unless it works for you. Now that's the end. Okay.
good. That's good.
So I'm going to ask you all to...
The words up.
Yeah, the words to The Light of God. This is a song Dave wrote.
I see the light of God within my soul. I hear the voice of God within my soul. I feel the breath of God within my soul. I know the love of God, and I am home. I see the light of God within my soul. I hear the voice of God within my soul. I feel the breath of God within my soul. I know the love of God, and I am home. I see the light of God within my soul. I hear the voice of God within my soul. I feel the breath of God within my soul. I know the love of God, and I am
So let yourselves breathe in deeply. Oh my God, I am so blessed to see your fabulous faces. I see the heart and the light in each and every one of you. Please know that it is there. You have every answer inside of you. With your breath, you can find that answer. In the quiet and the stillness, you can learn to trust your answers. You know the God of your understanding. That God has been with you always. As my friend Carrie said before she died, she said, Irene, I see this light. I can't describe it. And now I know it was always there. I was too busy to see it. Don't be too busy to see the light inside yourself. Trust what you know. For 1 minute, just sit with it. Isn't your God delicious?
I see the light of God within my soul. I hear the voice of God within my soul. I feel the breath of God within my soul. I know the love of God, and I am whole. I see the light of God within my soul. I hear the voice of God within my soul. I feel the breath of God within my soul. I know the love of God, and I am whole.
Sweet Spirit, we're so grateful that Unity on the River is a prayer ministry. We know that these prayers in the prayer box will be sent out to the prayer team and prayed upon for 30 days, and then sent to Unity to be prayed upon another 30 days, knowing that divine love heals and all of your prayers are heard. And so it is. Amen. Thank you both very much. That was lovely. So in a moment, we'll be receiving tithes and offerings. But first, we want to take a moment to ask the chaplains to stand and be recognized. There they are. They're available for prayer after the service. Anything that's on your heart, they will hold in confidence and pray with you. Thank you, chaplains. So as we're holding our tithes and offerings in our hands, we also invite those who are streaming to join with us in the blessing of the tithes and offerings. We really appreciate your gifts. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Spirit, we know that you are the giver of all. We thank you for this prosperity, knowing that it goes out into the world to do the work of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I'm going to ask Tom to come on down again. He just has a few announcements.
Thank you. Feel like the gremlin that just woke up. The lights are so bright. Bright light, bright light. Great talk. Thank you. Carol didn't know what she was thinking. She's letting me do my own commercial. So if you're not signed up for the class, if there's a little bit of resistance, just invite you to go within and ask yourself what the resistance is to take the class. If you think there's some forgiveness work to do, you may want to take this class. If you're looking for a prosperity class to have membership to Unity on the River, I invite you to take this class. So today's the last day to sign up. We have over 20 people, and it's looking to be a really, really exciting class. Keys to the Kingdom. And I had a talk with this guy, and he assures me he's letting ego aside and he's letting spirit drive. So I invite you to do the same. Next Sunday, our guest speaker is Thulani de Marseille. Birthing Excellence, a Divine Invitation. And later in the day, Thulani will be holding a workshop, A Conversation Transforming Craving, Desire, and Addiction. That's at 11:45 in the sanctuary. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
And Operation Backpack, we talked about it before, but if you want to bring in school supplies for middle school or high school kids, the bins will be out next Sunday. Okay, I want to do some thank yous. Thank you both, Irene and David. We so appreciate you're here. We want to thank the choir and the band and Maura, and up in the back, Frank, and I think it's Karen and Brian, and everybody who makes this service possible. And if there are any board members here today, if you'd please stand so we can recognize you. John and John are here. If you ever have any questions about Unity, you can see them as well. Very good. Thank you, guys. So now, it's a celebration song.
In the morning singing, God is so good. I got up in the morning singing, God is so good. Well, I got up in the morning singing, God is so good. My God is so good to me. When I'm feeling good down in my soul, yeah, God is so good. I'm feeling good down in my soul, yeah, God is so good. I'm feeling good down in my soul, yeah. God is so good. My God is so good to me. Well, in my time of trouble, I say, God is so good. And in my time of trouble, I say, God is so good. And in my time of trouble, I say, God is so good. My God is so good to me. Take it, key.
Children.
We are walking at the light of God. 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 We are walking, walking, we are walking. Oh, we are walking at the light of God. We are walking, walking, we are walking. Oh, we are walking as the light of God.
Good morning, everybody. We had 9 children today, and we are getting ready for our Newburyport parade. It's next week, so we're busy planning for that and preparing. And our theme this year, our kids make a difference. Isn't that a great theme? Because the theme of the parade this year is you make a difference. So we thought we'd turn it around, kids make a difference. And so we're learning all these lessons and how we make a difference. And today we talked about being different and being the same. It's a very good lesson. And I just want to remind everyone, families, that we have pizza in Youth Ed after service, and then we're going mini golfing today. So hopefully the weather will hold up for us. Thank you.
Christina, is there anybody who'd like to pray? Okay, so Hannah's going to help you. All right. Okay.
Good catch, yeah.
Okay, we're going to go down this way.
Okay.
But we're going to sing our peace song first, correct?
4, 5, 6.
The light of God surrounds us.
We are the light of God.
The love of God enfolds us now. The power of God protects us.
We are the power of God.
The presence of God watches over us.